inaugural meeting of the Finance Committee to order under our new name. Basically the same rules and responsibilities, but a little bit expanded, but not too difficult. The mayor called last week and asked if we would call a meeting together and go over the community foundation agreement that we discussed previously at strategic planning, correct?
Yep.
And that is the only thing on our agenda. So with that, turn it over to the mayor.
Yeah, perfect. I will share this. We can read through it. I did email it out just this afternoon. It is a pretty basic agreement. So this really shouldn't be a surprise over the last, year, 2 years, as we talk about fundraising for the downtown recreation area. One of the things that I think is really prudent is having a fund at the community foundation for donors. And then the main benefit is that the taxable documentation that folks get from the community foundation. Hopefully, a lot of our donors are also already engaged with the community foundation, so they're familiar. They're able to donate online. They're able to look if they want to do recurring donations, all of those things that we have the ability to do, except for the taxable document, but really easier for us to get it out of our hands. Having folks that can do donations now, we can let them sit and accrue interest. The community foundation obviously does endowment and fund management as their primary service. So they're very familiar with it. This is all generic language. So as you can see, obviously we'd have to update the date. They did provide this to me back in May, and Figner reviewed it. We talked through it, and it was really just figuring out time to have the discussion with you. I've been having conversations with a couple of key community donors that are interested in making contributions to this fund. And so now I wanted to get that set up so that we can really get the ball rolling. So I don't want to sit here and read it to you, but really the one thing is obviously it's kind of all standard language. Setting up the city of Findlay, it would be called the Downtown Recreation Fund. We did put a clause in here that pretty much says, like, if for some reason this project does not move forward, it would be utilized for parks and recreation in the community. Distributions are a drawdown account is what I'm recommending. So pretty much it goes in there. We would have to make an initial contribution of $10,000 as a seed money. That's kind of the minimum amount that they will allow to be in there. And then donations can flow in. And then as we are ready to receive money from it, we just make requests and they cut us a check. And then we would be responsible for managing, paying vendors or however that works. We do have other funds with them. There was one set up probably 15, maybe even 20 years ago now at this point. When they were tearing down the building that burnt out on the corner of Sandusky Street. It was my understanding the fund was set up. There was like a downtown improvement fund that they used to get some donations to tear that building down and build out that Sandusky Street park area. And periodically we pull money from it for little special projects. It does not have much money in it. At one point I did discuss with Brian Treese from the Community Foundation if we could just use that fund. And he said, since it was made for a very specific purpose, they recommended starting a new fund. So it was very clear delineation on what the purposes were. This is really, we make the requests, their board honors those requests. Policy of the foundation we have to follow. They do the annual reporting. We authorize them to include us as a partner entity. If the one that gets down to zero, if we're doing the drawdown fund, then there's a process to close the fund if we so desire. This does also allow us to leave funds in there for ongoing long-term maintenance. If somebody wants to make a donation 10 years in the future to this, that gives us flexibility with that as well. So then we get into the fee structure. So this is again just standard language. This is saying that we would give them the additional 10,000. Rotates this. So
Where's that thing ready from?
So we would just have to decide how we want to do that. Most likely just general funds. We could probably take it from the project because
I thought all the next city council folks would donate 1,000.
if they want to.
What I heard the auditors will attend himself.
Perfect. Is Norfolk Southern did make a contribution to the downtown park, $150,000, I think at the end of 2024, maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah.
So we do have a little bit of extra money. We obviously didn't have this set up at that point. I would have recommended that they give to that. So we do have a little bit of buffer money in the project at this point in time. So what we are recommending, is the agency type of fund. That is literally the governmental structure that they have. So the minimum to establish is $10,000, and then it is a 0.75% annual administrative fee. So I can pull up if you guys like me to, but I shared at the last meeting kind of the structure that they do it. Their annual return on their kind of conservative side is typically 3.9. And so they are able to more than cover their fees. And then again, just allow that to compound.
Just note for the fees are subject to their administrative policy, which they can change.
With notice. So that is really what I'm requesting is your authorization to enter into the agreement and appropriate the $10,000 seed money. Yes, sir.
Item 4. If it doesn't come to fruition, be utilized on recreation and parks in the city of Philly. I might just ask this more out of curiosity. Is it existing or any kind of?
We kept it broad because we still may not do the full scale, but do something smaller. However, that was pretty broad. And obviously the other thing is, as I am talking to donors, I'm communicating to them, there's always kind of opportunities if they really want to request funds back, we would work with them on that.
In that,
What would happen, Rob, with our office is typically with our things like that, like engineering would come and say, hey, we have this money here, this grant. Definitely to use it this way. We would kind of say that qualifies from our perspective, and with rare exception, we come with an opinion from.
okay. And then if it doesn't come into fruition, when this has been done in the past, I know it was quite a while ago, can a donation be pulled? And I say, boy, I really want it for exactly what you're doing, and if not, I just want it back and do something else with it.
Yeah, we would, that has been my communication with donors. That's why many of the donors that have kind of told me, yes, we would like to make a donation, have waited for us to get to different checkpoints. So obviously I don't expect that to happen. But I think we would work with individual donors to make that decision. And we would work with the community foundation. So if there's something you want more specific in there, we can certainly have that. But this was the language that you and I had worked on a couple months ago.
Mayor, I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I said,
Mayor, is there a way for us to not accept a donation? What if you had a lot of money coming from somebody you didn't necessarily want it? You want it from?
We have no control of this community's policy. So we would be a financial perspective.
Yeah,
I figured that was the case, but.
Especially if you get into naming rights, like name the bridge for this.
well, and that would be handled completely separately. So we already have a document that I'm including when I'm having donor conversations. That if they are interested in any sort of naming rights, then we're gonna have a separate conversation with the auditor and Feigner and their legal counsel to determine, because obviously we have some restrictions on making sure that we don't. We had problems out at the queue previously on just creating something that can change our taxability on a property. So if they donate to this, then we would work on that, and that's been part of the conversation every time I have language that.
So do you have a naming right structure for the park set?
We do not have specific identified items. In the present, I have broken out when talking to people, different elements. And so if somebody says, we really want to name this, then we'll have that conversation. Right now, it is just in sharing. Here's the overall cost estimates. Here are some of the key elements. If there's a specific dollar amount that you're wanting to give or something, a specific part of the project that you're interested in, then we would have to have a separate conversation on it being named. My desire would obviously that we can put people's donations, like thank you, sponsored out of the generosity of things, but naming it certain, I don't want to name the park necessarily after a donor.
Dan, so that if anybody does want to do that down the road, it's gonna be a much broader conversation because we're gonna have to know how much is gonna be paid for out of donations, how much is gonna be paid for with our own funds that we have, and if there's gonna be debt issue. It really boils down to debt issuance and how the money is allocated. It generally, naming rights are considered private use of that asset. If there's private use of the asset, any bonds that would be issued considered taxable. Again, I'm speaking in generalities, which means selling taxable bonds our costs would be significantly higher than tax exempt bonds.
So it'd still be Dan's Park.
Yeah. You might be, it's definitely a convert.
Significantly more than 10 grand.
Other questions or comments on it?
So are you gonna write the ordinance such that $10,000 does come out of the money that you have from the?
That is up to you guys. The only thing I would have, probably would be easier.
I'd have to balance the project, but it's easy, yeah, just for that project.
Yeah, I think we can. I'll have a conversation with Jim and then I'll also have to just confirm. The language of the grant that we received from Norfolk Southern, that this is like a usable cost towards the park.
I'm just thinking that that would take away our, somebody, oh, still don't even know if we're doing this and they're putting another $10,000 for it.
Yeah.
When it's.
Right, because it's already money that was a donation.
Right, that's, so I think it would be better
Good
if
point.
it came out of that
Good point.
if we can.
Yeah, well, and honestly, as we're looking through the budget, I again would have to talk to Fiverr, but we may have funds in a couple of our discretionary ones.
I've got a question. Say somebody comes into Jim's office, wants to donate, repairs almost. Now, does that money have to stay in a city account or can that money that they donate at your office?
If they
Go
want,
into
if
this
they want the
fund.
donation. We would bring it in. So.
We'll be able to put it into that fund or opening it.
We would-
Foundation.
We would, we could. Yes, in other words, basically, the only reason you need a foundation is they can provide that letter that is tax.
Right, I understand.
So if they come in and want to hand it to me, we would.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is gonna be,
Yeah,
And it helps, like, if somebody wants, again, honor stocks handle it, but if somebody wants to
yeah. if they're-
come in monthly, get on Community Foundation website and make a monthly donation of $50 or whatever.
Right.
It's a lot easier. than
Oh,
it's
that-
not.
yeah,
If somebody says, I want 100% of my money to go.
Hmm.
If they could bring it to us, there'd be certainly like that.
Yeah, I know you can collect that. I know if we could take that money and bring to your office, we could put it into this fund at the community foundation.
Not
Or
without
you-
your permission. And you guys.
Not-
would have to
We would have to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
take it, there was-
I just wanted to know the mechanics of it.
We could pretty much make another donation, right? We could
Right.
collect, okay, yep. We either go direct to the project or we could say, okay, we want to appropriate the $50,000 we received in the past year over there.
That was silly.
Right. I like that. Yeah.
other questions? I need a motion to approve or to recommend. Approval of the Community Foundation Agreement. You did not have any changes, correct? You're not gonna make any
I
changes?
believe so.
Yeah, we'll just have to change the dates, but
Discussion? Oh, I need a
Just-
second. I'm sorry,
well, and just to clarify, I got not $10,000 appropriation.
and 10,000, thank you.
Yeah.
$10,000 appropriation.
Preferably from the project.
Yeah, from the
Not
project,
general fund. Right, not project general.
Let's see, council starts in 20 minutes. I'll have it ready by then. Maybe.
Did I get a second?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, you were second, that's right, second then. Discussion. Seeing as there's no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those dissenting say nay. Motion is, we will go forward, Mayor.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate it. Making progress. Okay, any other items or probably adjourned? So people don't just have to watch you live
Oh,
stream.
Well, I don't know why. One. No. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Jim, good, all right. That's it. It is 5:30 and we'll bring this meeting to a close.